I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself before I put the video on. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Office Hours live stream. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Professor Geek. Hopefully you guys had a great Halloween. Halloween was just last night. Big Al and Fan Man and I have been exchanging little memes all day about, like, well, Halloween's over. The time, the first day of preparing for next Halloween, all that kind of stuff. So I'm actually, as long as I feel like I've celebrated a good, proper Halloween season, I'm never sad after Halloween. But as long as I took the time, like even starting in, say, August, and I do, I kind of low key start celebrating in August, with watching some stuff and things like that. But then at least a solid September and October full of just, really enjoying spooky season, then I'm okay after Halloween, because I look forward to the fall Thanksgiving season, and then Christmas, of course. I love freaking Christmas, so I'm okay. But hopefully you guys are as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Halloween season. It's always kind of hard. I don't know. I as a child, you're never going to really recapture that specific magic of any of these holidays that you experience as a child, right? You just need to accept that. For me, once I was too old to trick or treat, I still loved Halloween because I loved the season of it. I loved the magic of it, but I never knew what to do, because I wasn't a partier or anything. I was an introvert. And especially when Halloween would fall like on a weeknight and you still had school the next morning, it wasn't like I could get together with my friends or whatever. So it was kind of like, I'll watch something or another, but like, what do I do for Halloween, But once you're a parent and you have kids to trick or treat, that's, you get a lot of that magic back. But honestly, even if it's on a year where I don't have my daughter for Halloween, I've just taken that whole season and just really delved in to the archetypes and the fun of it. And especially being a Catholic, Halloween, All Hallows Eve is the beginning of a little mini triduum. You have Hallows Eve, Hallows Day, which is All Saints Day, and then All Souls Day, which we actually just went to the Vigil Mass for All Souls Day tonight. So it's really great. I'm happy with it. Hopefully you guys had fun. I did see Electric Barbarella had sent me some pictures, some really cool pictures of their Halloween decorations and everything. Yeah, it was awesome. You guys, Rudia merch. Yeah, you said you counted the amounts of candy that you sent too, which is pretty awesome. Like, or gave to kids. We live in such a rural area that we would never get trick or treaters to our home. So we're free to go out, but we do go into some neighborhoods, and it was some really cool stuff. They had some cool decorations, and we always start the evening before it gets dark. We go to a couple of places that have trunk or treats, because they're nice, and not like church trunk or treats that are like, Halloween's evil, here, take a Bible verse instead, not that kind of thing, but just like communities that'll have like trunk or treat things, because they really go all out. They decorate the heck out of the trunks and everything. They'll do like costume contests and stuff like that. And we saw some cool stuff there. And then we when it got dark, then we did proper trick or treating. So it was fun. Had a blast. Hopefully you guys did too. Let me welcome everybody here. Get back to the top of the comments. Of course, Ghost Planet Max Inc. popped in first. Good to see you there, Ghost Planet Max Inc. Hope you had a great Halloween too. And yeah, getting some good thoughts in and comments. Going to gear up towards our conversation today. Welcome, Studio Soups. Good to see you there. Private Eye, Ace Moic. Good to see you. I think you got a slightly different name there too, don't you, Ace? But good to see you there. You said you got a PVTNT 160 yesterday. Nice. My first ever amp was a PV, and I liked it. I thought it was great. I have a Fender Rumble now, which I think is just perfect for me. It's a Fender Rumble 500, which is technically, I think it's like technically 400 watts on its own, but you can plug in a cabinet if you need to, but I don't think I'd ever need to. It's got a line out. So if you ever played a big enough arena, you can just line out into the PA system. But yeah, that's cool. Hopefully the PVs are great. I really enjoyed mine. So hopefully you're enjoying that. Crystal Ashes, welcome. Let's see who else is in here with us. You guys chatting back and forth. Big Al popping in to say hi. Welcome, Big Al. Happy November to you as well. The Imaginative Hobbyist, said Rydia Merchant there. Malwinus, good to see you. Final Fantasy fan. Kal-El, 64. Nathaniel Zalozball, a Chol. I think I got everybody. There's my dear Sound Engraver popping in. Good to see you. Sound Engraver always we both take naps before the stream. After mass, we get home and we, do a few things. And she always takes her nap like right up against my stream. So I'm always like, she gonna get up in time for it? She's there. Jason takes Middle Earth. Welcome, Mr. D-Man. Leia Plus Size, good to see you. AL, great to see you there. Got a super chat here from Nathaniel Zalozball. Thank you so much, sir. Said, had a Universal Monster movie marathon yesterday. Hey, that's never can go wrong with that. That's great. Great time revisiting some and watching others for the first time. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if you never, before I did the full deep dive into really reviewing all the Universal Monster movies, there were some that I hadn't seen yet. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And they did so many of them too, in terms of like the sequels and the interconnected things. And then you can even get into some of the Universal Monster movies that weren't necessarily the big archetypes, So it's good. Let's see. Studio Super or Soups. Oh, Super. Yeah. I thought it was Soups at one point. Well, thank you for the super chat. He said, a friend showed me Twins of Evil, the theme of that movie. I'm listening and wondering why it sounds familiar. Then it hit me. It's the theme for the Justice League, the animated series. Twins of Evil. Is that the Cockstein trilogy? The Hammer horror one? I think it is. It started out like the one that started out with Ingrid Pitt that was a adaptation of Carmilla. And then I think it was with Twins of Evil next, or I know Vampire Lovers, I think was one of them, or maybe I'm thinking of something totally different, but that's cool. All right. I think I got everybody else here. Welcome, Samuel Proctor. Good to see you there. You said missing the quote when you didn't put the Pennywise quote insulting one of the losers club as girly boy. Who did he insult as girly boy? I remember when he kissed Ben, the adult Ben, when he was posing as what's her name, and then he turned into the clown. He's like, "Kiss me, fat boy." That was hilarious. Who do you call girly boy? Was that Stan? I don't remember that part. Big Al says Universal Monsters. There's a nice Facebook page about those iconic monsters. That is very true. Let me find the link here. There we go. Big Al runs a page that I guess really me, him, and Fan Man kind of had the idea for it or started. I think Fan Man probably had the specific. Oh, come on, get out of here. I don't want to. Come on, stop it. All right, get out of here. Fan Man probably had the first idea of it, but Al's been running it. It was and we decided to make it a part of this series of iconic pages I had for iconic heroes and whatnot. But there's the link on in the chat there. So if you are a Facebook person, you can follow that. It's a pretty sweet page. He updates it quite a bit, and it just celebrates all the good old Universal monsters, the iconic. It's good stuff. All right. Jason Dixon, the favorite scene in the 1990 It movie was Stan's head in the fridge. Yeah, I was probably even going to watch that again this year because I love that 1990 adaptation so much, but I just couldn't stomach anything from King this year. I won't let him take away the good classic stories that I loved in the past, and not even really his novels so much as the adaptations of those novels, because I do like the novel It, but there's a lot of stuff in it that just doesn't need to be in there. That's one thing about Stephen King's writer that he even admitted in his autobiography. He called himself a putter inner. He's constantly putting more in, putting more in, and I hate that about any novel. Like if you're telling a story, and like for example, at some point in the end of It, the novel, the water tower right there, the people that are our heroes are like in the sewers underneath, and the water tower kind of crumbles, and so that's the big thing that you need to know, that the water tower crumbles and that the city outside is seeing it crumble. Okay, that's really all we need to know. But no, Stephen King's going to narrate for us a guy there watching it, and we get his brief little backstory, and we find out what he's doing there, and we find out, all these random stupid things about him that we don't even need to know. We don't even need to know about this character at all. But then he sees the tower crumble. It's like, dude, why don't you just like kill the pace of your novel? I hate that. That's a pitfall that a lot of writers fall into. Anyway, um, where to start for tonight? Oh, I got another super chat. Let me get that first. Crystal Ashes, welcome, welcome. Uh, Thank you for the super chat there. He said, I managed to watch almost every classic Universal monster movie in October. The only ones I didn't have the time to watch were the crossover movies and the Abbott and Costello films. Always next year. Exactly. Always next year. Yeah, there were a few of the Hammer horror films that I left off this year, and I was like, oh, I'll save those for next year. So, yeah, you always got to leave something for next year. Get hit the ground running. I did watch this year. And I thought this was actually a pretty interesting topic. I really like anthology movies. Or I love anthology series. Tales from the Dark Side, just classic. Of course, the classic Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Outer Limits. I just love a good anthology series. And I was looking at Halloween movies that I might have missed or whatever, and I kept seeing pop up over and over in the list that I would look up, Tales of Halloween, which I think came out in like 2015 or 16. So of course I'm a little, suspicious of anything that's been released that late, but I kept hearing good things about it. I looked into it, and it's got what's her name? Adrienne Barbeau. What's her name? The woman who played the DJ from The Fog. She even has a connecting role throughout this as like the DJ over the night in this town. And it's just a bunch of different stories of all these kind of spooky or horrific or whatever things that are happening in the town on Halloween night. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, all the reviews I saw about it, it's pretty spot on. It's just kind of good Halloween fun. It's not at all an amazingly made movie. The stories themselves are in no way amazingly well told stories and well developed. It's just sort of an atmospheric, fun Halloween movie, to have on in the background or whatever. And some of the stories were more, I think, had more potential than others. But it made me think, because that's one thing that I specialize in my own writing, and I specialized in the study of writing in this too. When I was getting my MFA degree, this is something I really delved in deep to, was the art of the tale. And I've talked about this before. All of my short stories are no more than 10 pages long. I think one or two might be like 11-ish or something like that. But I really try to keep short stories short, because I really do believe, I've said this before, I love Edgar Allan Poe's work. And Edgar Allan Poe believed in something called the unity of effect. And he said that if you're really going to get a good effect from a short story, you want people to immerse themselves into your tale, and then just kind of like rise up as though out of a dream with this kind of hangover of this effect that you've had on them with this tale. And the effect that he often went for was terror or something like that, But he said in order to achieve that unity of effect in a story, it needs to be short enough for readers to read in one sitting. Now, how long something can be for most readers to read in one sitting changes depending on the culture and people's attention spans at the time and so forth. So, Poe's short stories, most people today couldn't actually sit there and read them in one sitting. They just don't have the attention span for it. And it's not to say that there's that these are superior and the novel's crap, the short stories are how to do it. No, because a novel has its own its own benefits, and it's something you can carry with you. You can carry this world with you for a time, however long it takes you to read the novel. A week or so, a couple weeks, a month, even, or whatever. As you're dipping into this story, it's something you can carry with you and mull over and stuff, and that's fine. But unity of effect is like that sucker punch that you get from a good short story. Stephen King, one of the great things he did say about a short story was he was talking about novels, and he said, but a short story is something different. He said a short story is like a kiss in the dark from a stranger. And it really is kind of that idea. It's like, where did that come from? You read a really well structured short story, and it's like, man, and in some of the episodes, not all of them, but some of the episodes of like Tales from the Dark Side, the old Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt. I mean, some of those episodes were so good, and they were crafted around a unity of effect so well, and they tapped into something. They really did enter or recontextualize some sort of inner struggle, our human struggle, and they do it so well that they just really do stick with you. And I love that kind of thing. That's my favorite thing to experience when I read any fiction. That's why I love a good short story, or I love a good short anthology, short film or short episode like that. And so that's what I've tried to achieve or accomplish. But it's very hard to do if you don't know what you're doing. Way too often, even a lot of these anthology series, like, I mean, there are even episodes of the Twilight Zone that were like this, or just more sort of like they kind of get to a, yeah, see, isn't that weird? Or they get to a sort of like, oh, gotcha. Or did you get to that little, there's the trick ending or something like that. And Tales from Halloween, this isn't a criticism, because I don't know that the movie was trying to be anything other than this, but it was just more sort of like Halloween atmospheric stuff. Had some really cool ideas that, if you developed them a little bit more, could have been really awesome. But as it was, in the shortness of each little tale, it was just sort of a little up, and then something fun and Halloweeny happened. I mean, horrific even, but whatever. Um, so it's fun Halloween stuff. But I'm always looking for that, because that's the goal. That's the very elusive goal of a good short tale. That it just gut punches you out of nowhere, and impose unity of effect, where you've got a master storyteller. If it's prose, if it's a fiction that you're reading, then all of the prose, the word choice, the sentence structures, everything, and of course the imagery and the adjectives used paint a bright picture, and it just all contributes to this one effect. And you can imagine how much harder that is if you're doing it as a short film or a short episode of an anthology series, visually, where you've got a lot more people working on it, and you really need a strong director. One of the episodes, like, for example, the pilot episode, I think, of Tales from the Dark Side, written and directed by George A. Romero, was Trick or Treat. Mr. What's his name, Harrington or something like that. The old miser, in the town, who would get the kids from the trick or treat at his house, and he tried to scare them. But if they found the IOUs, their parents would be out of debt. And that was a great one that really nailed that kind of thing. So yeah, I love that kind of thing, and I love those for Halloween as well. So maybe I'll talk more about that. But that's what all of my short stories are. If you go on Amazon to my short reads, I've actually got a new story that's new old story. It's called the Witch House. It's going to be published. I wanted to have it published yesterday on Halloween, but I'm still waiting for the formatter to return it to me. So it hasn't come quite yet, but that's coming out in just a day or two. So and I've got a bunch of short reads already published, and right now they're just Kindle reads on Kindle. Once I get maybe 10 or so published, I'll probably put them together as an anthology, and even sell it on Amazon as a hardback, but or a hard copy rather. But Witch House is a good one, I think, anyway. Let me see if I can find the link to those short reads. I used to put it in my videos, then I just forgot and started to get lazy about it. But let me find this link to drop in there, and then I'll oh, I can't find it. Maybe Sound Engraver, if she's here, can find it. Let me do one more check here. Oh, there he goes. Okay, I found it. Short reads. Yeah, here's the link. Let me drop that in the chat. These will have the ones that are available thus far on Kindle. But and you don't have to have a Kindle to read these. You can read them online as well. You just have a Kindle app or whatever on your computer, which is fine. Though Amazon walks you through that. But yeah, Witch House is coming soon. So coming soon. Let me talk a little bit about my main topic tonight, though, which is The feminization of culture. I'm going to put another article in the chat here, which is a really great article that was written a little while ago by Helen Andrews, and it's called the feminization of culture, the great feminization. I think there's a really wonderful YouTube video going around where she presents this essay, and she presents a talk on it. And just look her name up and you'll see it. It's really great. Um, and what she's talking about is how the woke movement has essentially feminized professional cultures, work cultures, the academic world, medicine, and she's absolutely right. It's fascinating read, and it really is stuff that a lot of stuff we've been saying forever. A lot of YouTubers who are like minded, like myself, have been calling some of this stuff out, but she really talks about it in a really succinct and clear way. And the workplace became completely feminized once once this idea that men and women were different became taboo. You can't say that. You can't say men and women are different or want different things or do different things. You can't or think different ways. How dare you? You can't say that. Once that became taboo, weirdly enough, it just the masculine climate that was in a lot of these places, whether it's workplaces or academic world or hospitals or whatever, gave way to the feminine atmosphere, which was not sold as masculine versus feminine. It was just sold as the old bad way versus the new right way, and you think about it, think about like human resources, the very idea of it. Uh, it's one thing if Susan, the secretary, is being physically groped by, one of the men at work. Okay, that's like assault, all right? That's not just harassment, that's assault, right? You're being unwanted physical touching. That's assault. Call the police. Don't go to human resource. Call the freaking police. But oh, Tom from accounting told an off-color joke and Cheryl was uncomfortable by it. Well, suck it up, Buttercup. The world makes you uncomfortable sometimes. I mean, that's just. But this, oh, we got to make sure that everyone's feelings are. That's a feminization, a overly feminization of culture, of professional worlds and whatnot. And she breaks it down really great. And I've seen it, absolutely seen it in the academic world. I remember I was doing my we had to do a lit review, which is a review of scholarship, is a better phrase for it. But it was like the big test before I got my master's in English. And of course, in the English program where I was getting my master's, predominantly women, um, as is more and more increasingly becoming the case in the academic world. And I was looking at an academic study on Wonder Woman and her as an archetype, and all that kind of stuff. I was doing this even back then. And a review of scholarship is looking at the peer reviewed academic scholarship that's out there. And one of the commentaries I made in my review was that the feminism, like the feminist lens, in terms of the feminist critical theory lens, so the feminist scholars, they were just spinning their wheels with this one note over and over. They just had nothing new to say. It was just all like, oh, problematic her costume is. It was just like, and, ironically, it was the people that came from the queer theorist perspective that were actually going deeper and giving something of, and the psychoanalytic theory. They were just knocking it out of the park. But we don't talk about psychoanalytic theory anymore because that's the patriarchy and blah blah blah. But I was pointing that out and I was giving it evidence. And I was saying, these people are actually saying new and fresh and interesting ideas. The feminist theory lens is just going over the same stuff over and over. And they actually commented, not arguing with me, not saying, well, you're wrong because other people over here are saying this. No, it wasn't that. Their comment was, you can't say that in a paper that is going to be read by feminist professors who spent their whole life studying this stuff. I'm going to hurt their fifis is basically what they were telling me. Are you kidding me? Is this not an academic, rigorous place of study and new ideas? And oh, I'm sorry, your feelings were hurt by the truth or by reality, but that's the way it is. But that kind of thing is thrown out the window today in this feminization of culture. So anyway, that article is great. It really talks about that, and there's some videos on that. What I was noticing, though, what I would add to that, and it's something I've talked about, even most last time when I talked about the this hubbub over K-pop Demon Hunter of all of these like grown straight men into this, which is just weird. Um, there's a feminization of our popular culture, and it really does affect and start feminizing young men who are into this kind of stuff. And people, oh my gosh, they get their panties in such a twist over this. And so let me just dive into the most controversial aspect of it first. Oh, the thing that's just going to rankle all of you. Oh, anime is a big problem. It's a big part of this. No, I'm not saying all anime is bad. No, I'm not saying all anime is like this. I'll even admit that I think there's plenty of things about anime that are maybe linked to Japanese or Korean culture in a certain way or whatever, where it's relevant in that culture and not really feminizing and maybe in that culture or something like that, right? For example, uh, I think it's called the chibi like characters, where you can get a character, let's say like a big action hero, but now they're short, squat, fat, and they've got like big eyes, and they're so cute and chibi. That is disgusting. And I'm like, why are men into this kind of thing? Now maybe that's some sort of, I don't know. I'm not into, I don't care about Japanese culture or Korean culture. I mean, I have nothing against it, but it's just not my thing. And I'm not interested in going and learning about it. So maybe that's relevant in that culture in some which way, where it isn't an effeminization for men in that culture. Maybe, I don't know. I'll even give you that though. But the fact is that it comes over here into American culture, and you got grown men collecting freaking Funko Pops. It's like, what? Where did this come from? And I mean, like, I get how the slippery slope happens, because I have a few Funko Pops. It's like, oh, I really like Alice Cooper, or I really like He-Man. Oh, there's a collectible, and it's like a, and they sell it to you like, oh, this is a rare collector's edition, an Alice Cooper Funko Pop, and I'm like, oh, cool, I'll get that. And then I've got them, and I'm like, these things are butt ugly. I guess people just think, oh, they're so cute. Look at their big head and their little eyes, and they just look stupid, and they look very feminized. It looked like something that a woman would think is very cute and like, and that's fine. But men, grown men, are super into this stuff. And and it's not that, oh, you like Funko Pop, so you're gay, or it's not, oh, you watch K-pop Demon Hunter, so you're a girly guy. Ah ha ha. It's not about any one of these things. It's not about, oh, you like this, therefore there's a problem with you. The issue I'm seeing and that I'm pointing out is that it's really pervasive. It's not that, oh, our young men like K-pop Demon Hunter. It's that our young men like K-pop Demon Hunter and Sailor Moon and collect Funko Pops, and are starting to really kind of take on this feminization. It's an overall thing. So it's, I get strawmanned on this all the time, but people say, oh, get over it. Somebody likes something you don't like. No, that's not it at all, you idiot. Uh, yeah, maybe this person likes that, which is a little weird, but whatever, whatever. It's this overall feminization that I see. And that's the thing, for a man in the Western world to go around squeeing over little chibi style Ghostbusters or something like that. That's not, that's just that's weird, right? Now, if that's the only thing about the guy just happens to like cutesy things like that, but whatever. I mean, that's fine. Again, it's not about one thing. It's about this overall feminization. And it ties in, and you put this in the present world with what's going on in the professional world and the academic world and so forth. And it's this super feminization, and we see it in the current celebrities for young people today. I put some images up on the thumbnail there, and that was, what is his name, Bad Bunny, I think. I've never heard of this guy because I don't follow popular culture like that, but he's the guy that's going to be doing the halftime show at the Super Bowl or whatever, and he's non-binary. And I put the picture of Ezra Miller, non-binary. And they're really trying to make, and this is part of the woke world too, really trying to push this idea. Let's tear down any kind of idea of what it means to be masculine, because gender is just a cultural construct. It's not at all. I mean, there are some certain trappings around it that you might say are culturally relevant to one culture and maybe not to another culture, and that's fine. But in general, I'm talking about the Western world here. You see a lot of overly feminized young men, and their only defense is, well, I mean, it's not like this in another culture. Well, okay, that's fine. If it's not like that in Korea or Japan, that's totally fine. But you're not in Korea or Japan. I mean, unless you're actually Korean or Japanese, and that's like a part of the culture that you really still keep in touch with or something. But I'm talking about the vast majority of young men, this like over feminization that I'm seeing in them is just insane. I got a lot of comments on my K-pop Demon Hunter video, and some of them were just like, how dare you, whatever. And those are the people I block. But a lot of people were very polite or whatever, but they were just like, yeah, I mean, I do like my Little Pony's Friendship is Magic, though. It has some good writing. And I'm thinking, what happened to our young men, like men around in their 20s or teens or whatever? It doesn't matter if My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is well written. It's not it's not marketed to men. And what I mean by that is that it's built around feelings and empathy, and feelings are more important than truth, and adventure is not as important as just making sure that everybody is cared for and feeling. Now, none of that stuff's bad. That's good feminine energy that we need in our world. That's what women bring to the table, and that's great. But that's not what men bring to the table in general. There are exceptions here and there. This woman has more of a masculine brain, or this man has more of a feminine brain. There have always been exceptions, but we're seeing it across the board now. I mean, I was telling Sound Engraver at one point, I could name every pony in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and I hated it. But it was because my daughter would watch it all the time. So it was on the TV. That and Strawberry Shortcake, they were on the TV all the time. Now, if you ask me, yeah, they're probably well-written shows. Yeah, they were fine, and they were good shows marketed to little girls. Great. But never once was I like, oh, this is asleep. I'm gonna go back to season 2 and catch in the details that I missed of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. No, no. Boys grow up watching stuff like G.I. Joe or He-Man or whatever, where it's adventure driven, where it's a task oriented, it's to save, it's to protect, it's this kind of stuff. That's the thing that's marketed to young boys. And again, it's not about, oh, this young man likes My Little Pony, so therefore they're evil, they're or girly, what. It's not about one thing. I'm just calling out the examples and what's behind these examples. If you're constantly drawn to, or you really are into things that are marketed to women because they're marketed with feminized themes and feminized storylines and stuff like that, then how is that's the whole shtick of my channel. The things you watch are going to affect you, and you are what you eat, just like you are what you read. You are what you watch. Stories do affect us. They mold us. And if that's the stuff that you're spending time with, then you're becoming feminized, and that's not okay. Men and women are different, and we need them both, and we need both masculine and feminine energies in the world. It's not a spectrum. It's just the gender is a spectrum, and today I feel masculine, but yesterday I felt more feminine. Bullcrap. There's biology behind this. Anyway, let me get to some super chats I think I've missed there. Let me go back up just to make sure I didn't. Yeah, I think there's one there. I just like to get these before I start missing them all. Okay, Studio Soups, I think, or Super was the first one here. Said, you need to consider people's feelings. Bull. They should like me because I got the job done. Yeah, in the professional world. I mean, where was this idea that I need to feel my workplace, I need to feel safe, and I need to feel valued, and I need to feel nurtured and cared for? It's work. Now, you shouldn't feel in danger, your person, or, you're dangerous or anything like that. No, like I said, there's a difference between, say, harassment and actual assault, but I don't like the joke they told or whatever. So what? Suck it up. Wasn't that part of kindergarten, learning that, you gotta pick it up and roll with it sometimes? There's a reason that, let's say, the nursing industry, for example, has always been predominantly filled with women, because women are really good at that nurturing, caring role. And it doesn't mean that there are never any male nurses, or no male should ever be a nurse. Like I said, there are exceptions. There are this or that male that's a little bit more of a feminine brain or feminized thinking or whatever, and a woman who might be a little bit more of a masculinized thinking in certain things. You can't just paint it all with one brush. But there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why a lot of manual labor jobs have traditionally been male, because they're usually task oriented. I need to dig this hole and take the dirt over there, and that kind of thing or whatever. Um, Another super chat from Studio Super. Thank you there. He said, gender is a cultural construct till they start to wonder, where have all the good men gone? They will do anything under the sun to avoid accountability. I hate how they gaslight us like that. Yeah, you always hear from, a lot of it's like women go super feminist and, oh, we're tired of toxic masculinity and blah, blah, blah. Then they end up with these little beta simps, these little feminized, the feminized young men watching all their feminine shows and all of that grow up into the beta simps, and women don't want to date that. Even the ones that say they do don't really, because masculine and femininity is so complementary. One craves the other in such a way that women want strong, not domineering, evil, abusive men, of course not, but they want a strong, take charge, man that can take care of them, can take care of things, and by extension, take care of them as well. Imagine if Hobbyist says thoughts on the secret of Nim. What's a random, not even covered by the topic tonight question? Imagine if Hobbyist, but I don't think I can give you many like deep thoughts on that other than I liked it. It was a kids movie. It was kind of freaky, kind of scary. That was one of what's his name? The guy who started at Disney. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I know it. Um, the I don't know. The guy's name that I'm talking about. He started at Disney. He did the Fievel, American West, and all that kind of stuff. American Story. You know him, Don Bluth. Thank you. I knew somebody would say it in the chat. Don Bluth. Yeah, everybody just said that. Even Sound Engraver had to come over here and tell me Don Bluth. Like, how dare you forget his name? Yeah, I liked it. It's been ages since I've seen it. I don't think I could really even tell you some of the main story points because it's been so long. But I remember liking it. I have to give it another watch sometime. Uh Ghost Planet Max Inc. has got Ash on the brain. He's really big into Ash from Evil Dead. But yeah, he's a manly character. And again, when you talk about what does it mean to be manly or masculine, it's not, like I said, gender is not a cultural construct, but there are some trappings of it. Like maybe in your region. I mean, I'm even talking just even within the U.S. Maybe like in the South. It's really hard to be a man and not be into sports in some places in the South. But masculinity isn't necessarily being into sports. Masculinity, especially if you look at it theologically with the masculine and feminine genius. I mean, there's a the masculine genius is goal oriented. It's serving others. It's coming out of yourself and serving others. Whereas the feminine genius, I mean, there's much more to it. I'm just dropping a bucket in what I'll think you say about both of these. But the feminine genius is going to be more nurturing. It's going to be more receiving that and giving back and making sure that everybody's emotions are cared for and so forth. So yeah. Yeah, it's a good point, Leia. Plus, I was talking about the hate the Wicked movies. Already the ads for the part 2 are out. Can't stand what they're doing to the Wizard of Oz, and the men are so feminine in those movies. Well, on one hand, like when you're down on a children's, because I mentioned My Little Pony's Friendship is Magic. Let's take that as the example. When it comes to like a children's story, okay, if something's going to be marketed to little boys or little girls, it does have to be marketed in a way that's going to appeal to their psychologies, their developing psychologies at the time, and in a healthy way even. And if you look at My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, right? The only real, I mean, there's a couple like male ponies here and there, whatever, but the only real regular male character is that little dragon that hangs around. What's her name? Thank goodness I forgot their names now, since Alyssa doesn't really watch that stuff anymore. But that little like male dragon. Um, and he's so, and if you look at his character, like he's infantilized. He's a baby basically. He's a dragon, but he's nothing. He's not dangerous. He's a chubby little arms that can't even really do much. He's a little assistant to the woman character and so forth. And that's a safe masculine, or it's a safe male character for a little girl to have in their story, right? Our Strawberry Shortcake, that my daughter used to watch too, the Huckleberry was like the one guy character, unless you count like some of the bugs or whatever. But he was just basically a simp for Blueberry. He was just basically like, anything you say, and it's one thing. I'm not really upset about that kind of thing when it's in a children's story. where it doesn't really feel like it's trying to mold or manipulate, a young girl into thinking that all men should be like this. It's just kind of, there for them, and whatever, and that's fine. But you take that kind of thinking and you put it into movies for adults, like you said, Wicked. Now I haven't even seen Wicked one. I refuse to. Uh, but I'm sure. I mean, I've seen the previews, and yeah, these feminized men. Uh, that's the woke world that these woke ideologues, they want to see that reflected in real life. That's why they encourage men, little boys, to maybe you're transgender, maybe you're non-binary. Don't even think of it like one or the other. It's all a spectrum. So, even though you might think you're masculine today, tomorrow maybe put on a dress. Like they are actively trying to tear down masculinity. It's I don't know what their psychology behind it is. It's a warped way of thinking. But men, we need real men. We need real men who aren't into all these little girly things. We need men in our society. And that doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean you got to go play sports and you got to be lifting weights and drinking your creatine and be a man. No, it means be masculine. And masculine doesn't have to look one way, but it has to look like masculinity. It's not a mystery. Um, yeah, I don't get it. I see a post from a dear sound engraver here. Another super chat. Sound engraver flexing her 17-month membership. So my mom recently left the modern nursing setting. It's ultra feminine to the point where real needs don't take precedence. I believe it. I don't know much about the nursing setting, but I'd love to hear your mom's talk on that because I love your mom. I have the best mother-in-law. She thinks I'm a rock star. It's so great. Like there's the usual stereotype, like, oh, my mother-in-law is coming over, or whatever. Man, Sound Engraver's mother, we clicked day one. We were talking about things. She's great. She's also like an introvert intellectual. But when I was doing research from this, I was telling Sound Engraver that a lot of videos that were popping up in my feed were from pastors or people like in the church world, not really Catholic world, but there were people from like the evangelical Protestant world who were really talking about the problems with the over feminization of churches. And I'm thinking back to my time in evangelical churches, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I was in a lot of those churches and they were bringing in stuff from the corporate world, like, okay, what's our mission statement? We need to make sure that everybody's connected through a small group, so everybody feels safe and every feel, and they're saying things like, the songs you used to sing in church were, onward Christian soldier, and now that's, become heaven meets earth in a sloppy wet kiss. And it's all about just come here and feel accepted. Just feel accepted. No, how about come here and realize the sin in your life that you need to cut out and know that you're on a journey. And I love the Catholic idea. We are the church militant. We're still fighting the spiritual war, here on earth. And but no, that's taken out of a lot of churches, not all of them, but of a lot of them. And it's just this more feminized culture here that's held sway. It's the same thing, like that article that I shared you from what's her name, Helen Andrews, I think. Yeah, it's anything she says about the professional world can easily be seen with churches, because a lot of churches are adopting things that they see from the corporate world. That's been a thing around ever since the 2000s. I think that became really heavy in that. Crystal Ashes, thank you so much for the super chat. So regarding your comment about anime, I do believe you have a point there. I've seen some extremely nasty behavior from anime fans these past couple of decades, including anime dub actors. Yeah, I don't know about a lot of that, but I mean, I hear a little bit about it occasionally. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the popular anime went super woke, especially the ones where they're getting like Hollywood or actors from the Western world to come voice these. Yeah, that was the thing. And again, I'm not just dumping on all anime. I'm just saying that this notion of anime is wonderful, just anything anime is great, just that's part of the problem, because anime, yeah, there's something to be said about how the woke hasn't necessarily infected, say, Japan as much as it has the Western world, and that's great. That's all good, but that doesn't mean that everything that comes out of Japan, because a lot of it's being twisted by Western companies and stuff like that. So yeah, just stop forcing anime as the salvation and everything. Anime is amazing. Uh, that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. Let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything else. Don't think I did. Just scrolling back to the down. Yeah. Mr. D-Man said, "I only watch anime I like, not what everybody else likes." Yeah, exactly, and that's the way to do it. That's like what I said for myself. Like there's still some anime that I'll watch, but I refuse to talk about it because I don't want your recommendations. I'm so beyond not interested in what you think I should watch. When it comes to anime, I'll find it on my own. I don't care if you're sitting on a gold mine of recommendations that I would love if I just listened to you and try. I don't care. I'll do without them. I don't care. Let me like what I want to like and find it on my own. It's, um, Studio Super, another super chat there, said, "I heard that one country had all the feminists go on strike from the workforce, yet there were no changes in the workforce except HR departments were severely underused." Yeah. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I don't know which country you're talking about or whatever. I hadn't heard that, but yeah, I mean, stop denying this idea that men and women are different. It doesn't mean that every woman's the same and every man's the same. No, no one's saying that. But there's a general difference between men and women. And it's not just biological, it's psychological as well. There's a general difference between men and women. There's 100 different, or more than 100, there's a million different flavors or whatever of what it means to be feminine, just as there's a million different flavors of what it means to be masculine, but there's a general difference. Stop denying it. Let's see. Gentle Savage says they keep hiring emotionally stunted people and man children to write these shows and movies now. I don't know. I've marveled about this, before, even outside of this context. It's like I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it. There's a bunch of different hypotheses that sound pretty good, and I'm sure there's some element of all of these things at play. What happened? Because it's not just new writers for Hollywood or for television or for comics. It's not just new writers coming in that don't know how to write. That's one part of the problem. People just aren't taught, in writing schools or in the industry. People just aren't taught anymore how to write a proper good story. They're taught how to check off these, social political boxes. But why is it that all of these great writers back in the day who wrote amazing stuff for us are suddenly just churning out nothing but this? And it's not just a matter of, oh, well, it's the only way they can get a job. I mean, they're like, militantly pounding the pulpit about it, and it's the culture. It's the sick culture, and it's a lot of things about it. It's like, okay, it's the feminization of culture on the one hand. I think it's also the death of culture, that we can't create anything new, because creating something new, I'll be careful how I say this, forging out into the unknown, trying something new, molding something new, working out the kinks and figuring out how it will work. That's something that comes from a real masculine energy. Now, it's not that feminine energy isn't a part of that, sure. Um, but that's a real masculine energy, and it's Hollywood's not going to want to do that, because Hollywood, for whatever reason, thinks that they'll only make money if they've got a safe built-in audience, when all they're doing is turning off all those built-in audiences. So there's just nothing but a redo of all of the old stuff. I can't tell you how many ads I get now for comic books trying to bring back all of these old cartoon properties. I just saw another one, SWAT Cats. They're bringing back SWAT Cats in graphic novel form. Now that might be great. I don't know. And I don't hate that if it was done well. Like, I was severely disappointed by Fright Night, but I've reached the point where I'm like, no, just leave all that alone. I don't want you to continue any of those old stories. I don't know. Stop it. What is so hard about writing something new? Why is it just, you just can't bring yourself to do it to save your little life? What is the deal? I don't know. Sound Engraver says, thank you, dear. Said, my female managers have been worse to work for. Yeah, Sound Engraver always talks about this, that she works, she's even in the jobs that she's had since I've known her, you have a female manager, and it's all these emotional head games. Like, she had this manager once, and she would text her about a problem, or, hey, I can't come in for this day because this and that's going on, or something like that, and the manager just wouldn't reply to you if they don't like what you texted. Just like an emotional, like like a lover's spat head game, Uh, where if it's a man's just like, all right, cool, or oh, that's a problem. Like there are no feelings involved about this. A man's just gonna have to solve the problem, and then we'll move on. And it's this, and yeah, I get it. I get it. As an adjunct professor, you don't really so much work for a boss like you do in others. I mean, I have superiors definitely, and I have those who are over me and stuff like that. But plus, I've worked as an adjunct professor for so long, you get to a point where there's general oversight every year. You're observed, every year, and everything's kept, so no one's going rogue or doing wild, crazy things. But it's different. I'm not going in every day and under a boss's supervision, that kind of thing, like you would say in an office situation or something. Um, but I do see the difference still. I mean, I saw that even as a student, definitely. All right, got a couple more super chats here. Let me make sure I didn't miss any up here, though. I always want to make sure I'm not skipping by. Yeah, okay. So I think next up I had Studio Super and then Imaginative Hobbyist. Studio Super said, I will say for anime, I love how they portray their women for the most part. When you compare it to the West, it's night and day. To make an analogy, it's comparing Snow White to Rachel Ziegler's. Yeah, now I'm no expert on anime, but the anime that I've enjoyed, yeah, these are feminine characters. These are women that they're not afraid to make an idealized female form of. This is fiction. This is cartoons. Let's make a woman look traditionally beautiful, and stuff like that. Uh, yeah. Imaginative Hobbyist said, thank you for answering. I brought up NIM because while it challenges gender norms, it will still respects them and has strong characters. Now, see, that's the thing. It's been so long since I've seen it that I can't really understand how it does that. I believe you. I'm just saying it's been so long. Gosh, I haven't seen that since I was a kid. I really don't think it. I've seen it since I was a kid, freaked out by it. I liked it even as a kid, but yeah, it got freaky. It's like that and Watership Down or whatever. Those are some freaky ones. Yeah, SWAT Cats is out. They did a comic. I think they continued the Terminator in comic form. They're continuing Thundercats in comic form, but I went on the campaign and bought the collection of the old Thundercat comics. I'm like, that's all I'm interested in, because they like reissue the old ones in this bound edition too or whatever. It's like that's all I care about. I don't trust any of you people today to write, continuations of the comic in any kind of good way. Uh, I see that kind of thing, and I'm not excited at all. I used to be excited when I saw like one of the original creators was involved. Like Tom Holland involved in the original, are involved in the ongoing Fright Night. And I read it and I was like, nah, this is just a Fright Night of today. That's definitely what it is. It's got all the agendas in there and pass. So yeah, I just don't get excited about that kind of stuff anymore. Hashir, studio channel member, good to see you there. Said, oh man, I missed the stream. Yeah, we're wrapping up here. It's kind of come down to our hour, but I don't know. Today's stream was like I had this idea to talk about, but I just kind of like just chatted about it basically. It wasn't like a hardcore review. I will try and get some reviews coming out for the next stream. Get some movies watched and stuff like that. No, I'll probably release what I said about the Tales of Halloween and stuff like that. I'm still enjoying reading the Batman Revolution, John Jackson Miller's follow up to Batman Resurrection, which is all in the original Batman Burtonverse. And it's long before all of the crap that Sam Hamm has written with his garbage graphic novels takes place. I would so love for them to just make these two continuities divergent. Just say, no, John Jackson Miller is going to continue writing past Batman Returns and make his own continuity. I would love for that to happen, because Sam Hamm's continuity is so horribly written. It's so woke agenda first, and any semblance of a story is dragging on the ground behind it. It's horrible in every way. But John Jackson Miller is just telling good stories. So far, I haven't finished Resurrection yet, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But I'm enjoying it so much that I was going back to looking at some of the old comics I had from those days. That was my glory days of getting into comics, in Batman 89 and all through the 90s. And I did find these two that I just need to finish rereading the Catwoman one. These are two graphic novels I bought way back in the day. These were released in 92 when Batman Returns was coming out. Penguin Triumphant by John Ostrander and Catwoman Defiant by Peter Milligan. And and some different artists and letters and whatnot. But these were written to kind of, help promote or whatever Batman Returns. These aren't in the Batman Returns universe or anything, but they're just kind of highlighting the Penguin and the Catwoman, who were the two villains of Batman Returns. And these are not collections of comic runs. Like these aren't, story arcs that appeared in Batman or Detectives or anything like that. These were just graphic novels that were specially written to kind of cash in on that era when Penguin and Catwoman were being heavily marketed because of the movie. And these are great. I just finished rereading the Penguin one. I haven't read these since I was a teenager reading these. Like 12 or not even a teenager, probably 12 or so. But they're really solid. And this is the Penguin. This is kind of before the continuity developed, where Oswald Cobblepot and Bruce Wayne had an ongoing, kind of competition since they were kids or whatever. It's kind of before that, so you get some really interesting, insightful things about Penguin as a story, and Catwoman as well. This is great stuff, and the art's great. I like the art in the Catwoman one a little better than the art in the Penguin Triumphant one, but it's not bad. It's not bad art. It's still good. I just love that good art. Love that good '90s feel when they still weren't afraid to paint or draw men like men and women like women. And they also weren't afraid to be more realistic. I hate more than super abstract comic book art. And that's nothing new. I mean, it has been around. But it's why I can't stand Frank Miller's art. Like, I don't want to look at a sort of stylized 10-year-old scribblings. I want to look at something that actually looks like a man in a suit and this and that. I hate when it's like expressionistic comic book art. That's just never appealed to me. And I'm not saying that it's nothing but bad stuff and it's horrible. And I think there's an art to it. I think some people can do it in interesting ways. And I'm sure some people, I'm sure it's its own art to it if it's actually being done on purpose and not just due to poor, crafting ability. But I like comic book art that actually looks like a man or a woman. And I think that really peaked in the '90s in such a great way. And even in the early aughts, it continued to that because, back in the day, you look at the old comic strips that happened, like the original Superman or Batman comic strips. They were drawing in smaller panels and stuff like that. So but they were still trying to represent proper, figures and whatnot. But once comic books really blossomed and they were getting more room to work with and more talent coming in, um, you got some more realistic representations on the page. And that's what I like when it comes to comics anyway. All right. Let's get another super chat here before I start wrapping up. Studio Super says, and not just looks, but behaviors. Anime women aren't afraid to behave feminine, in feminine ways. The kind that you were actually believe the main character would fight for this. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm trying to think of some different ones. They're not afraid to be feminine. And, sometimes they're the overly aggressive biatch, right? But when they are, the story recognizes them as such, um, or they're that way to a man who's being overly feminine when he should be stepping up to be a hero, right? Or being overly childish or something like that. We used to have villains in cartoons, and you knew they were villains because they were disordered in some which way. They were either a man acting really, really childish or a man acting overly effeminate. And that was a cue to the readers that there's something disordered in this individual. It's why they're the villain. They don't have it all together. So somebody like Skeletor was very childlike, dangerous and everything, but in the cartoons and stuff, he's got a childlike nature to him. So, little kids recognize, oh, that's not how a grown person should act, and stuff. I would argue that Cobra Commander is both a little childlike and a little feminine. He's got a little feminization going on in Cobra Commander. Think about Fire and Ice. The Ralph Bakshi and the other author, this artist that's escaping the Conan artist is so great that I just can't think of his name right now. But the villain in that, you've got Tigra, Princess Tigra, this incredibly femininely drawn, heroine or damsel in distress or whatever, super sexualized, drawn. So she's all woman, and the villain kidnaps her and really doesn't even know what to do with her. He's not even interested in her sexually or romantically in any way. He just kind of wants her for some sort of power struggle. And he's super effeminate in all of his moves. He's got like these mommy issues with his mother and everything. And she needs actual masculine men, I can't remember the names of the characters in Fire and Ice, but the two men, to come save her, who are swashbuckling and actually out there being men. So yes, I mean, it's something that children recognize in comics all the time if they're not being uh, programmed otherwise. Nathaniel Loseball says, "Think we can get a follow upstream. I think you mean about media trying to masculinize women. Oh, interesting. Or have we kind of covered that in previous streams where culture is trying to erase traditional feminine beauty? Um, Maybe sort of yes and no. I mean, I think we probably have covered some of it, but it'd be interesting to talk about and delve into again. That's a really good idea. Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll maybe kind of look at some stuff and think about that a little bit. Uh, yeah, I've got some thoughts even right now, kind of thinking about that as we're talking. So that's a good topic. Um, Studio Super, following up on his last super chat, says in two, whereas how West portrays women being crude, rude, and treats the love interest as an accessory, like I'm a bull. Yeah, um, I'm like, bull. You expect me to believe the main character would fight for this? It's very true. It's very true. Men don't want some domineering biatch. We don't want a woman who's constantly having to assert her independence. Men want a woman who's not afraid to need them. Men want a woman who will show weakness, who will rely on them. It's not that you want a total, I don't trying to think of an example. I can't right now, just off the top of my head. Uh, there's a young male adolescent immature fantasy of the woman in the bottle, let's say, for example, where she's completely dependent on you and she's there to give you nothing but everything you want. She'll give you all your compliments, all of the sex, all of the affection, that. But that's why AI is so popular these days, right? But that's an emotionally stunted, psychologically stunted thing to have. That's natural to have that sort of fantasy as an adolescent, puberty or something like that. But in real life, you want an actual real living person who can be capable of both strength and weakness and can be feminine, but also an individual person who, this and that. But yeah, woke doesn't understand that. Woke just knows men bad, masculine bad. That's all woke knows. So, oh, my dear sound engraver, fully dependent on my prof. Well, we have a very healthy masculine and feminine relationship. She is, though not in an unhealthy way. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah. I was in looking at this and looking at like the feminization of men and stuff like that. A lot of the research or videos have popped up about how men going for these like AI girlfriends and stuff. And man, our culture is so doomed. it's that's a topic for another night too. Yeah. All right. Well, I am over my hour limit. We had a good conversation, some fun stuff to talk about here. I'm sure you don't agree with all of it, but yeah, Frank Frazetta, that was the other artist I was talking about that worked with Bakshi and Fire and Ice. I knew somebody would put that out there. But yeah, hopefully gave you something to think about, even if you don't agree with everything. But appreciate you guys hanging out. It's another good office hour stream. I'll be back next week. Like I said, I'll try and have some more reviews next week that I can cut out and put his videos. But yeah, glad Halloween was a success. Glad hopefully you're gearing up for a nice fall season. I'm not one of those people who jumps right into Christmas. Even as a Catholic, I still think Christmas pretty much starts after Thanksgiving. I know a lot of hardcore Catholics are like, that's Advent. Christmas comes on 25th and goes in. Yeah, I still celebrate spiritually Christmas past the 25th through the whole Christmas liturgical season. But no, culturally, Christmas begins and pretty much Thanksgiving, kind of indisputably. There are some people who start it now, which is fine. I'm not here to judge you. But I like to celebrate fall for its own sake, not just relying on spooky season, just for that little month, just for a few weeks anyway. On the way out here, Studio Super said, I've had that realization many times in my life where I'm like, if I keep helping you, you act like you don't need me, then what am I here for? Yeah, I'm out. Exactly right. A lot of men are like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of men, sadly, are kind of heading towards the AI thing, which is, anyway, we'll talk about that. But it's an understandable thing that would push them there, right? So, yeah, no, good point. All right. Well, good hanging out with you guys tonight as always. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, but I'll see you next week. I'll be back with some videos in between time. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.